networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by A Advanced Septic Services and Fuse Networks. My name is Galen.
I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the BD local studios in Tacoma, Washington. So, Joe, for our new listeners and viewers tuning in, can you tell us how our podcast came to be?
Sure. So we first started out as a Facebook group page. The purpose was to bring different businesses together to kind of communicate with one another, ask questions, share tips, give answers, and kind of coach one another. We thought, what a better way than to just start a podcast and just to bring on different guest speakers to talk about any and all topics as it relates to business for young entrepreneurs, or, you could have been in business for 50 years and you could still learn something. So
awesome. And we're real proud of the content we're able to deliver. So speaking of that, Joe, our last guest before we get into it was Tanya Hager. And what was one of your main takeaways from when Tanya was on our last episode?
Sure. She talked about growing a personal brand, or how to build a personal brand. So one of the things that you hear a lot is getting people to know, like, and trust you. And one of the ways that you can do that is to just show your true self through your social media. So if you're doing videos or you're jumping on and doing live videos, people will get to know and maybe trust you better if they see the raw you.
Right. And that's just authenticity. We've talked about it before, but so key. But now we come to our guests for today. Today's topic is building bridges with values. And today we're lucky to have Matt Mersino on to share his kind of thoughts and insights. We met in a podcast group unofficially, and formally now he's on our podcast. So Joe, start with Matt's intro, please.
Sure. Matt is an inspiring visionary who believes that a bright future is being shaped by people who embody certain influential qualities. He has discovered how great leaders of the past and present show unique similarities in their thinking and behavior, and how people today can implement the same successful practices in their own lives. From years of serving in ministries, to smuggling Bibles into hostile countries, to working in the fast-paced tech world as a C-suite executive, and to speaking, coaching, and training leaders, Matt is on a mission to help others achieve their goals by elevating their influence.
Awesome. And Matt has been internationally featured as a thought leader on the topic of transformational leadership, and enjoys sharing his work through guest appearances on radio, podcasts like this, and other media outlets. As a fun, high-energy speaker with a down-to-earth approach, Matt presents to groups, teams, and organizations on topics of leadership development, transformation, building culture, and overcoming adversity. He is also an experienced coach and writer with his newest book, The Transformational Leader: How 4 Types of People Change the World, set to debut very soon, this spring. Matt resides in the Southeast United States with his wife and 4 children, so fellow dad. Nice. Enjoys traveling, outdoor fitness, and slinging a few well-timed dad jokes. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to start before you jump into your question. Give us a dad joke real quick.
Oh man, I was worried about that. See, dad jokes, it's all about the timing. It's not going to work. But have you heard about that movie with the girl who falls in love with the loaf of bread? I think it's called Beauty and the Yeast.
There you go. But I can't let you get out of here without explaining smuggling Bibles into hostile countries. That kind of jumped off the page. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this was a number of years ago, but I had an opportunity to travel overseas with a group, some former military, full-time missionaries, a very diverse group of people, to take Bibles into a closed country that was hostile to people that would have Bibles and to the faith itself. So one of those areas you definitely don't want to be caught with one And that experience absolutely shaped me. Actually, in the book that you just mentioned, I have an opening story about an intense experience, I guess you could say, traveling to meet this underground church pastor, and spending that time over there, meeting that gentleman, meeting those people, what became just a foundational shaping experience for my understanding of love, leadership, family, so many different things, and it was just an incredible experience. But something I being a dad now with 4 kids probably wouldn't do
Right.
these days, but very thankful for the opportunity to head overseas.
Awesome. So it's a good transition into getting to know you a little bit. So pivoting into the entrepreneurial world, what are some early lessons learned as an entrepreneur?
Sure. I think just to sum it up, I'd say fail fast and fail often. I've been an entrepreneur myself. I've also been very fortunate to be a part of helping take multiple bootstrap startups to the $1 million mark in annual recurring revenue, and then scale beyond. And in all of these different experiences, those early days are the toughest for sure. And you've just got to be willing to try new things and not be afraid to fail, but also not get too married to your own ideas. It's very easy to cling on to some things and not want to fail often. But really try and protect yourself. So I think those who can really learn to fall in love more with ideas that work as opposed to their own ideas will have an easier time failing fast and failing often.
Awesome. So then what is the best piece of advice that you have been given?
I think of a quote actually from Truett Cathy, the late founder of Chick-fil-A, that kind of seared itself into my mind. I was actually visiting the Chick-fil-A headquarters some years ago, and I was standing in the late founder's office, and for whatever reason, that quote really seared itself in my mind. And he said that the number one reason that leaders are unsuccessful is their inability to lead themselves. And I think learning what it means to lead yourself well, knowing that leadership starts in the home, really has been just the best piece of advice. Leadership starts in the home. I guess you could sum it up and say would be that piece of advice.
Great stuff. So since this is a marketing podcast, why is marketing important?
Yeah, great question. I think where the attention goes, the influence flows. And in a digital age like we have now, or that we're living in now, it's noisy. People are getting distracted. Attention spans are coming down. You're just being bombarded with info all the time. Yep. How do you cut through the noise? I think marketing is that opportunity to capture the eyeballs, to capture the attention of people, and begin to build that influence over time. And so from there, it really becomes about how you nurture that attention and grow the influence. But it starts with marketing and capturing that attention.
And one good thing that we're really proud of in terms of marketing and kind of giving back is our Valor Cares promotion. Joe, can you say a quick word about that before we move forward?
Yep. So we developed this a couple of years ago during the start of the pandemic, and we wanted a way to give back to first local business to where we're at in Washington State, as well as nationwide. And the best way to do that is to help build a foundation for a business, and the foundation for any business and their online presence is their website. So we thought, let's just start giving away 1 or 2 free website builds every single month. And it's just been growing, and we're just, happy that we can help support, small businesses.
Awesome. We'll have more information on that on our social channels and on the website. Now we come to our A Advanced Septic Pump You Up quote of the day. So a quote that I found from Matt is, the leader's journey is not about arriving, but becoming. So you've had quite a journey. How has that molded your kind of leadership philosophy, I guess?
Yeah, great question. I think over the years, I've been very fortunate to see a variety of leaders lead well, and then some lead not so well. And what's always been interesting to me is to see successful people in positions of leadership, doing a lot of the right things, making a lot of good decisions, good choices, but at times still struggling to connect to people, still not having the trust in the connection to others, and in watching their influence suffer at times. And what I've realized is that we can do all the right things, but if it really doesn't flow from a place of authenticity, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle to build influence. We're going to struggle to continue to lead others into the future. And so that journey of becoming is, it sounds good, and it can almost appear to be some up in the clouds kind of general, vague statement, but really, I think every great leader knows that all the things that they do flow from who they are. And so when you have that hyper focus on becoming a greater leader, becoming a specific type of leader, you're going to walk in rhythm with your values. And we'll get into some of this in a second. I'm so excited, but you'll walk in rhythm with the values that you have, the mission that you're on, the vision that you have. But it all starts with pursuing the type of person that you want to be and becoming.
Awesome. So as we get into that, come to the Fuse Networks Did You Know segment.
Fuse Networks, providing IT managed services and solutions in the Pacific Northwest since 2009. Here's Aaron with today's Did You Know segment.
Did you know that 92% of data breaches originate via email from end-user mistakes by clicking hard-to-spot malicious links and attachments? As a cloud solutions provider and Microsoft partner, we've helped many organizations increase their Office 365 security posture. Is your environment secure enough to avoid a breach? Click the Learn More button now for your complimentary IT security assessment from Fuse Networks and better protect your business from cybercrime.
Segment. So this is a segment where we talk about different myths, different statistics, different trends and everything. And we're really excited to get to some of these now. Myth number 1, culture is a set of values. But the truth is culture is the way you live out your values. It is the attitudes and behaviors of people in your accordance to the values. Culture is values in motion. Give us a quick thought on that, Matt, please.
Yeah, I think culture is a hot topic right now for sure, with COVID-19, the Great Resignation, just all this reshuffling going on around the world, really. But people asking new questions, people looking at their careers, their families, and starting to maybe take seriously or take a little more seriously the importance of culture and the importance of where they're going to invest their time and who they want to invest that time with, in particular in the workplace, right? So it's easy on the surface, I think, to think that culture would just be a set of values. If you have these values, it's going to determine the culture, but that's not necessarily true. I think it's the living out, it's the active tense of walking in accordance to those values that really shapes the culture. So you could have incredible vision, mission, values, all of that, but if there's not an adherence to that, if there's not a value modeling going on, then that culture may not necessarily be great. But if there is, I think that's going to be an incredibly powerful culture and a very positive place to be.
And that's a teaser to what we'll get into, what Matt will share with us a little bit later. So this myth, we're almost flipping it on its head right here. So strong values indicate a strong organization. The truth is, strong value modeling indicates a strong organization. Values alone can create tension when there's a gap between with what a value is and how people are living that value out. Just what you said. Value modeling is the key to creating strength in an organization. So your thought, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been playing on LinkedIn these days a bit more. It seems to be where I'm spending a lot of my time. And you don't have to look far in the comment sections to see disgruntled people everywhere.
Right.
People that are willing to maybe flame leaders. Really just there's a apathy, there's a distrust, I think, that's been growing. For leaders, for people in positions of influence. And I think a lot of times it goes back to what I had said a few minutes ago, where you can have a leader make a great choice, make a great decision, but then you might hear a little grumbling like, oh, I bet that was like drinking vinegar. That must have been a tough thing for them to do, because we know that's not really what they want to be doing. Right.
Right. But I like drinking vinegar. So, oh, no, just kidding. I don't.
Yeah. And I think what that speaks to is when there is a gap between the value and the personhood of the leader, that gap is felt. And that gap is the sort of thing that can lead to the distrust and to the discord. And so I think when a leader is value modeling, they're really staying close to what it is they believe, what it is they value, what they've articulated in their values. People aren't expecting them to get it right all the time. People aren't expecting leaders to be perfect. But when someone can look at a leader and say, yeah, they're walking in rhythm with their values. I might not always understand the decisions that they're making or necessarily even agree with it, but they've got integrity in the way that they're upholding their values. So that idea of becoming, that idea of the active tense of value modeling is what's going to create a strong organization, strong leadership, and then a strong organization.
So do you see, just in general, a lot of our audience are small businesses, entrepreneurs, and you kind of see that value modeling with the corporate values of like bigger companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see like even the small mom and pops and the smaller businesses, like, this is an issue too, like values can mold their businesses even at that smaller scale?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll share a story in just a few minutes
Okay.
of an exercise that I had been through recently with a team of less than 10 people. And a company that's over 10 years old, successful agency. And they went through some of this exercise. But I think the answer in short is yes. I think, the earlier on in your entrepreneurial journey that you can establish clarity around what it is that you value, what it is that you believe in, and be really explicit about that, it's going to help to really to steer the ship, so to speak. It's going to be a filtration system. It's going to be a focusing tool. And so I think the earlier on you can get some of that figured out, the better off you're going to be. And then tying it back to what we said earlier about, failing fast, failing often. When you know what you're standing for, when you know what you believe, it makes it a lot easier to navigate those failures because, hey, I'm still on mission. I'm still on track. I'm still walking in accordance with my values. The failure isn't tied to something that's maybe personal or moral as much as, hey, it's just a strategic failure. We can figure that out, iterate upon it, and keep moving. So the sooner you can get those values clarified, I think the better.
All right. So I had a stat you shared with us that I want to share. So over 90% of managers in the US say a person's alignment with company culture and values is equal to or more important than skills or expertise. So your quick thought on that.
This statistic, this one just blows me away because when I first read it, I thought, wait a minute here, let's pump the brakes and see what this is really saying, because 90%, and I've seen a few other statistics that hover all right around that same number. So this isn't just one source. But what this is telling us is that you can have the most gifted, skilled, employee that has the technical chops and the ability to move the needle for the business. I mean, you could have the best of the best technically, but if they're not the right fit, they're probably not going to get hired. And so and I'm excited about this statistic because what it's saying is that people realize that how a person aligns with the organization's values, how a person aligns with what they believe, how it aligns with their day-to-day living and just, practices is so incredibly important that it almost takes precedence over everything. And I'll tell you just from personal experience, having been in numerous hiring processes, some that, when I was younger, I was a fly on the wall, others that I've run, start to finish. In every single scenario, there's been behind closed doors conversation and evaluation of, is this person the right fit?
Yeah.
Are they really a good fit for the team? Because you can have the most skilled person in the world, but if they're not the right fit, they may bring the team down and create more problems longer term. So incredible statistic. It shows that the values again is front and center in people's minds, and it's important to attach people to your vision, to your mission, to your business that align with your values.
This is a good segue to our last Fuse Networks. Did you know kind of piece of information we're sharing? Values are not a nice to have, they are a need to have. So as we tee up what we're going to really get into, this one just really resonated with me. People think it's good to have it, like, here's your company workbook or here's your company mission statement. It's on there. People don't get it. But you're saying it's a need, and your experience, what you'll share with us, just your quick thought on that.
Yeah, no, man, you said it too. I think you're absolutely right that a lot of times values are just that thing that, they get slapped on a coffee mug or a fridge magnet or a bumper sticker. They're in a slide deck somewhere in that new employee onboarding process, never to be seen again. Right. And if you ask some people, hey, what is the company's values or the organization's values? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if we have any. So, right. I think it's one of those things where when you think about not only the times that we're living in, the challenges that we face, but really how to grow into the future. How do we keep the best people together? How can we create strong, thriving teams that can drive revenue, that can be on mission, that can fulfill vision? We've got to have that values piece, right? Because we have to know what we believe in. And I'll never forget when this was years ago, a good friend of mine, mentor of mine, actually asked me one time. He said, Matt, what are your values? I said, well, what do you mean? He said, if you could ask, or if I were to ask you to tell me your values in 10 seconds or less, could you do it? I just stood there feeling dumb. I'm like, no, I can't. And it's one of those things that I've thought about over and over. And I would even ask listeners, if I were to ask you to name your values or to list off what you value most in 10 seconds or less, could you do it? Is it ingrained in your mind that deeply? Is it that top of mind at all times? Or would you have to maybe shoot from the hip a little bit and kind of make it up as you go? And so I think thinking about personal values is highly important, but then, flipping the coin over and considering the organizational values or collective values, it'd be the same question, right? What is your team? What does your organization value most? Do you have the core values like we were just talking about? Do you have those 5 things or 7 things? Is it a quick phrase, a one-liner, a single word, or is it woven into some form of mission, vision, values statement? Mm-hmm. So I think, the key takeaway with whether it's personal, collective, organizational, the key takeaway really is that clarity is the first step. Clarity is always the first step for a leader when it comes to determining the values that you have. And I think that taking action on that, for those of you listening that are action oriented, you want to take something away from this that you can go and do and put your hands to. I think it's very simple and easy to go through a personal values assessment. I've been through numerous of these in the past, but a very simple one is simply to list out as many one word or single words as you can. Faith and family and freedom, finances, that the 4 F's is kind of a common thing, but go through a list and list as many as you can in 10 minutes, single words, just as fast as you can. And then take that list and cut it down by half. Spend a few minutes doing that. And then take that list and cut it down by half again, and go through that exercise to the point where you maybe have just 5 values left over. And it's really difficult as you get closer to the end, because you realize, man, there's a lot of things I've valued. There's a lot of things that I find important. But it's really powerful to see at the end of an exercise like that, what means the most to you. And it can be a little bit of an emotional experience as well. So I would encourage people to try that sometime, go through that personal values exercise. And you could do the same thing as a team, same thing, organizationally as well.
So let's get into that a little bit. So how can you model values? So that exercise, you come up with your values, as an individual, or if you're a leader of an organization. But when you talk about modeling it and implementing it into, I guess, your company culture, with our audience, can you give them like 2-3 tips of like best practices on like how to implement this like in real life?
Yeah, sure. So I think, the first key, like I just mentioned a moment ago, is that clarity. Is you've got to be able to put the cards on the table and know what they are. And as far as being a value modeler, it's great to take that first step and know what it is that you value and be articulate about that. But then others need to know it as well. And so I think that's where the shift happens from just having personal values and the things that you believe in, to pulling others to the table and having conversation around that. And so I recently went through an exercise like this with a team. I mentioned a moment ago, a smaller team, less than 10 people. And we spent the morning together reviewing the company's mission, vision, and values. And it was on a slide deck, like I joked about a moment ago, in the new employee onboarding process. And so we dusted that thing off. And actually, the founder of the company, which was awesome, walked the team through this. We all did this together and started out not even talking about the company side of things, but just personal stuff. You could see some people around the table are like, what are we doing here? We're getting real personal, a personal values assessment. And so we did something similar to what I just described a moment ago, of putting a list together, chopping it down by half. And so I spent about a good hour doing that, and then went around the table and talked about it, put it out in the open. And it was incredible to learn about your teammates, just
Right.
things you would have never known about before. And you could just sense this building of camaraderie in the
Mhm.
room. You could sense the discovery, the connection to each other. And so everyone went around and shared what they personally valued, and spent about an hour doing that. And then we shifted gears and looked at the vision of the company. And what was the company on track? Were they carrying out the vision well in the previous quarter and in the previous year? And the team talked openly about that. Where can we do better? What have we done well? What do we not want to have happen? What's
Right.
the one thing we could do to move the needle? And same thing for the mission. Right. If vision is where you're going, mission is what you're doing to get there. Mission is
Right.
active, vision is future. And so we went through that exercise. And at the very end, we went around the table and everyone got to share how your personal values connected to the organizational values. And this was maybe one of the most powerful things I've seen as it relates to values in a company, because what that's doing is building bridges. It is literally the values are the bridges that connect the individuals to the organizations. These values become an on-ramp for people to get excited about what this company is doing, where they're going, where they've been. And when you feel that sense of buy-in, or when you experience that sense of buy-in, you're willing to, you pull a little harder, you work a little more, you buy in more, you're willing to take the hits and step up to the plate when the storms come, because not every day is a good day, especially in smaller teams. You're wearing a lot of different hats, right? And so going through this exercise was incredibly powerful. So just to tie it back to your original question, Galen, I think one is the clarity piece, and then you need to articulate it together. You need to share it in community with each other. And then 3 is don't let it be a one and done. Make it a quarterly exercise, do it every 6 months, what have you, but it has to remain out in front of you. Otherwise it'll get forgotten about.
So I think a key component of that is, if as a leader, when you go around the table and do this exercise, is respecting the other stakeholders, because that's when you buy ownership, when someone feels part of their organization. We've heard company cultures where top down, we just bought you, this is how it's going to go.
Yep.
And people feel lost. You read through the comments and you'll get to the disgruntled employees, right? No matter where you are, it could be the best company, publicly traded. But for our audience here, even at this level, small business, small size, like leaders respecting their employees is so key, just to get everyone, like you said, rowing in the same direction, not only for the good days, but probably more important during the challenging days, like let's get you through, right?
That's right.
Which is why I think that, like, the stat that you brought up, the 90% of managers in the US say a person's alignment with company culture and values is equal to or more important than their skills or their expertise. When you're doing that exercise, I was just thinking in my head, like, what are my personal values? Do my personal values align with our company values? Do we have company values? And in a sense, we do, but it's just that stat right there. I think it's more important to hire people that can share the same values, and also they're going to share the same passion, because the skills is something that you can teach.
Skills are cheap, passion's priceless. A Gary Vee quote.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that reminds me, a company is not great because it has great products or services. A company is great because its people are great.
Right.
And great people working together in great teams will produce a great offering. And I think we're seeing a lot more awareness and affection for getting great people and valuing great people and putting the people first, to where, hey, this isn't 50 years ago, 100 years ago, where you're just a number, right? As an employee, you're just a number, you're just a cog in the wheel, you're just a part of the system, and you're dispensable. I think people, they want to be valued, but more than just wanting to be valued, they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves as well.
Right.
So,
right. Well, it's a good episode. Sounds like we could spend more time talking, and if you're open to it, maybe we'll invite you again and touch another topic. But we so appreciate you connecting with us and like being on our podcast.
Absolutely.
I think you've elevated already our mindsets on how we view everything, and our clients too. But mostly, like you said, it starts with getting your self clarity first, and then you can only help yourself when you help others, right? That classic.
And in the sales organization, as people go out in the field and they're selling, meeting new businesses and selling things, like, to me, that's the right thing. The mindset I have is, does this person or does this company that I'm talking to for marketing share the same values as I do? Because if they do, then usually they're going to be a good client. But if they don't, it usually lands that client is now a troubled client.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, guys, thank you for having me so much. I've enjoyed it for sure. And I wanted to say too, I love what you're doing with Valor Cares. That's awesome.
Awesome.
To have that outreach and to help others. So
Well, we
thank
appreciate
guys for having
you.
me.
You'll be an ambassador for us too. So before we go, on Matt's initial
Cue in,
right? Give us a quick word to our Valor #Valor Cares promotion.
So if you own a business and let's say you just don't have a website, or you need a website rebuild, or you just don't have access to a website and you just want that access to it, just go to our website, the askvalormasterminds.com. Click on the Valor Cares, read a little bit more about it, submit your information, and then or submit someone else's information. And then every single month, a team of people choose 1 or 2 winners, and we start knocking out some more free websites.
Awesome. So on behalf of our sponsors, Advanced Septic and Fuse Networks, my name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
Coming at you virtually from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. At the very end, stick around for Marky Boy's video tip minute. Thanks for watching and tuning in. Thanks guys.
Man.